Hey, I'm Cristina Quinn. Welcome back to Try This from The Washington Post. This is the second of 3 classes in our course on keeping your brain healthy. In our first class, we spoke to my colleague Richard Sima about what a healthy aging brain looks like. In this class, we're digging in on what we can do to help support our brain health. And to do that, we need to start with understanding the latest science around this.
The great news is the neuroscience research suggests that about half of dementia cases are actually preventable.
That's 45% to be exact. This was a big headline out of the Lancet Commission in 2024. An international group of health experts reviewed all the best research and evidence on dementia risks. The report concluded that there's actually a lot more that we can and should be doing for our brain health and to help prevent dementia. Richard says the report outlined specific things we need to pay attention to.
There's these risk factors that we know about that we can modify. Some of them are, maybe intuitive, like cutting back on smoking, like not drinking in excess.
Or even a little. There's new research that suggests light alcohol consumption can increase dementia risk. Other risks include
inactivity, the obesity, hypertension that's associated with dementia risk. Diabetes is also a dementia risk.
So is early exposure to air pollution and having less education early in life. Depression, hearing and vision loss, traumatic brain injuries, social isolation. In total, the report named 14 risk factors. Some of that stuff we can't control, like education in early life, but they don't necessarily dictate our future brain's health. That's the hopeful piece of all this, and the results of a big study that just came out this year in the summer of 2025 are also noteworthy. It offers a new recipe to improve cognitive function. We're going to spend most of this episode learning about that study.
We were designing the largest lifestyle intervention trial to protect brain health in the world.
Laura Baker is a professor of gerontology and geriatric medicine at Wake Forest School of Medicine in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. She recorded from home, so you may hear her pet birds throughout this episode. Laura led this big effort. It's known as the U.S. Pointer Study. It was a 2-year-long clinical trial with the Alzheimer's Association. The Pointer Study was modeled on a 2015 landmark study in Finland, which was the first of its kind to see if making a few lifestyle changes could slow down aging. Laura and her colleagues needed to find Americans who had room for improvement in their lives.
So to get into the study, you had to be 60 to 79 years old. You also had to be sedentary. And I don't mean totally sedentary. I mean, not a regular exerciser. So if you were, did casual walks around your neighborhood, but that's it, you're in.
Okay.
If you ever say, I jog or I run, you're out.
Okay.
Also, you had to also be eating a diet that was more typical of American diet. So if you were already eating a super healthy diet, no meat, no sugar, you're out.
And the list goes on.
Another risk is that if you had some borderline or worse cardiovascular disease. So people who have borderline high cholesterol, borderline high blood pressure, borderline high glucose, you're in.
And with only 2 years to test their hypothesis, Laura needed to be strategic.
Since we only had such a short window to watch how people change over time, we had to start with people who were already at risk for decline.
They ended up working with over 2,100 participants across the U.S., and those participants were randomly assigned to one of 2 groups. One group was put into a structured program for building better habits. The other group was put into a self-guided program. So both groups were focused on doing more exercise, being more cognitively and socially engaged in the community, and eating healthier. But
one requires a stronger commitment. One is a lighter commitment.
There were some major distinctions in those commitments. The structured group was given explicit guidelines on what to eat, how to exercise, and they had to keep track of it all. They also had to do weekly online cognitive quizzes, and they had to make an effort to try new things.
They had homework to get out in the community and meet other people and join book clubs and go to, watch documentaries and just challenge themselves. The goal here was to get out of your comfort zone.
The self-guided group, on the other hand, had a lot more freedom.
So for self-guided, participants were able to basically plan and design their own intervention that best suited their own personal needs and their own personal schedules.
Okay.
You're the driver. You're the driver.
There was some coaching, but way less oversight. In addition to the workout and nutrition plans, both groups had to meet with other local participants in the program.
So if you live in a certain neighborhood, we'd find 14 other people who live in your neighborhood.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
That would be your team, because we have, in meetings in the community. And if you have to travel an hour to go to your meeting, you're not going to go.
Right.
And so we really wanted this to be in your home, in your neighborhood. It's with your people. You see your team members at the grocery store. They help build on each other, and you stay with that team for the whole 2 years. So at the end, what we've learned is people develop bonds. They develop friendships. They help each other, support one another.
You built a community.
Yeah, we did. And because you have a lot of similarities. You live in the same area, you're in the same group, you have the same challenges, and you talk about it. And so your team would say, so what are you going to do? What's your plan? And you say, well, I think I'm going to start, I'm going to join gym. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to go twice a week. And let's see how that goes. And I'll say, okay, great. That's your goal. Anything else you want to work on? Well, that's good enough for now. Or, I love ice cream, and I'm gonna start eating frozen yogurt instead of ice cream.
Laura and her team understood that having some sort of accountability was a key to people forming habits. And the idea was, if you had accountability buddies, you would stick with the program. They were right.
So we know in science that connections with other people, especially for older adults who are isolated so often from others, is really important for mental health. But the other reasons the social component was so important is that we're asking people to basically change their behavior.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but for me to develop new habits, it is hard. It takes a lot of work.
The structured group met 38 times over the course of the study. Self-guided participants, on the other hand, only met with their peers 6 times over the 2 years. But just about everyone in each group formed a bond.
At the end of the 2 years, we had really high retention. We had over 90% of people stayed in the study.
That's amazing.
And these are people who were sedentary. They were not eating they had room for improvement. They have cardiovascular disease. They have family history. They stick with us. And a lot of it has to do with that social bond. And they bonded with the staff and with each other as teams. So that was really important. And they believed in themselves, and they started seeing changes in themselves, and they didn't want to stop.
After the break, we'll hear why they didn't want to stop and what happened to their brains. And we'll talk about other health considerations that can also make a difference. When participants in the Pointer study started out, they took a test that assessed their cognitive skills. They had to take these tests every 6 months during their clinic visits.
The tests were on memory, executive function, so attention, problem solving, and then processing speed, how fast you can accomplish tasks. All those tests, we were able to reduce them. We averaged them together. So that one score reflects your global cognition ability. Both groups improved, but the structured group improved significantly more.
So significant that they were getting scores similar to adults who were a year or 2 younger. 2 years younger. They turned back time, bro.
So it's as if the structured group, the extra commitment, the extra work slowed the cognitive aging clock by 1 to 2 years. And that's over and above the improvements that may have occurred for the self-guided group.
Now, you might think 1 or 2 years, small bananas. How is that going to really help my brain health? Well, you're not alone. Laura and her team have heard some pushback along the lines of, 1 to 2 years isn't that significant.
My response is, you talk to someone who's in that age range, who is at risk, who has a family history, who has cardiovascular disease. You ask that person, how important is slowing down the clock by 1 to 2 years? I'll take any slowing of the cognitive aging clock. Even if it's 6 months, I will take it. So I think we need to be cautious about younger individuals over interpreting how valuable a small difference is.
Right.
When anything that's going to slow it down, and this is just over a 2-year period. What if we continue these lifestyle interventions for 10 years? What's the slowing that happens there?
Or started them earlier.
Oh, yeah. And you're able to do things. You have a different life if you can slow cognitive aging.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you have the support to help people shift from the starting point of, I am an unhealthy person. This is why I signed up for the study, to, I am a new person. And I am proud of myself. I am a healthy person, and I did this. It was the journey that was so important to me, not the destination.
And for healthcare practitioners who see patients every day, they're hopeful that the results of the Pointer study can shift the trajectory of their patients' journeys.
I think it reaffirms what most physicians, whether they're cardiologists or primary care doctors, have said to the American public. You can do better. You can do this.
Dr. Monica Parker is a physician, Alzheimer's researcher, and an associate professor in the Department of Neurology at Emory School of Medicine. She wasn't involved with the Pointer study, but says it's proof that we all have more control in our cognitive health than many of us think.
Now we have more evidence that these are things that we should do. So I'm hopeful. I think the Pointer study was research with real world information that's practical and useful, research that matters.
In addition to practical information from the U.S. Pointer study, Dr. Parker underscored some other things to consider.
Are you getting good sleep? Are you paying attention to your vision? Are you paying attention to your hearing? And as we get older, we will lose some of those abilities just because it's a natural process. But if it's a critical change, that's something we want to address. So maintaining your ability to hear, maintaining your ability to see is a way that we interpret the world. And those are the things that help us with our cognition. So you would want to keep a regular check on those sorts of things.
Other ways to reduce dementia risk include getting vaccinated. Many large-scale studies in the past couple of years have shown strong evidence that the shingles vaccine reduces dementia risk. The same goes for the flu, RSV, and tetanus shots. The reason is simple. Vaccines reduce the risk of developing infections and inflammation that can leave long-term effects.
People don't always think about that. Other preventive things, maintaining good dental health, keeping up with dental appointments, keeping your oral hygiene good as well.
Yeah, these sound all very manageable methods, too.
Right.
It's like, I personally speaking, I'm like, I already do this. Yay.
Yeah. And you want to continue to do all of those things. So people say, well, there's nothing. I want a pill. I want a shot. I want a this. I want a that. And it's so much better if you can just do that without any medicine.
Back to the Pointer study. Laura Baker says the work is far from over. 80% of all the original participants from both groups are staying on to do 4 more years of annual assessments, which will also include brain imaging scans.
And we're looking at your structure and your function of the brain, how it's working. It will help us understand the cognitive results a little bit better. Mm-hmm. This is just the tip of the iceberg that we've reported, I think, in the next 4 years. Hopefully within the next year, I'll have more answers, a lot more answers in the next year. And then over time, we will have more and more answers that hopefully will confirm that this is worth your time.
Now, these lifestyle changes can be hard for many of us. What do you think are the main steps for someone who's listening that they should take to support their brain health as they age? Like, how can someone start?
Here's our recommendation. And I'm going to start simple. Sit less, move more. Just make a commitment. And the key is, the Pointer way is, it's not just the prescription, what we say on paper, it's about making the commitment and finding the social support and accountability to make it happen. Number 2, eat a plate that is colorful and make that part of your every meal.
And by that, we mean fruits and veggies, not Skittles.
That's right. Yes, not Skittles. That's right. Less sugar, less saturated fat. Number 3, in terms of cognitive stimulation, social challenge, put yourself out there. Find something that's a little hard and challenging and stick with it. If it's too hard, it will feel stressful. It will tire you. A little bit of tiring is good, but if you feel exhausted, it was too much, and back it off.
Got it.
So a little bit of stress is good for us. Find your sweet spot of what's challenging and gets you out of your comfort zone. You may not want to go do it, but when it's over, you say, I'm glad I did. That's the sweet spot. With the exercise, a lot of times I get people go, ooh, wow, that's so much. And I always say, all right, yeah, maybe so. Let's talk about how much you sit per week. All right, let's count up the hours. All right.
Well, when you put it that way.
All right. Let's. How many hours you watch TV? How many hours are you in front of a computer screen on a game or working? Could we carve off a few minutes of those? And then fourth, know your numbers. Be accountable. This is your machine. This is your body. Know what's under the hood. Know how it's working. Don't just be blind and let your doctor take care of those numbers. It's your body. You take responsibility for what your blood pressure is, your cholesterol, your sugar. Get your blood tests done. Most of us get approval in our healthcare to have those blood tests done twice a year. And I would if you can.
In the short time since these findings came out, Laura says healthcare systems across the country have been reaching out to her every week, wanting to know how to integrate these interventions into primary care. Because it looks like the magic pill to slowing down aging is pretty simple. No high-tech therapy or miracle treatments necessary. All right, recap time. Age is the main risk factor for developing dementia and cognitive decline. And genes play a role, but they don't necessarily dictate your future brain's health if you maintain healthy habits or make certain lifestyle changes. The U.S. Pointer study published this year indicates that staying physically active and socially engaged could slow down the brain's aging process by up to 2 years. This means, to quote Laura Baker, move more and sit less. That's part of the recipe to helping improve cognitive function. Another part, fill your plate with colorful veggies and fruit. Get out of your comfort zone. This means do something that challenges you in a good way. Maybe that looks like doing more crossword puzzles, seeing a play, or learning something new. And finally, as other research indicates, stay up to date on your vaccines, your oral health, and get your hearing checked. That's it for our second episode. Coming up in our final episode, we're going to hear more from our favorite brainiac, Richard Sima. We'll find out how long-term stress can age the brain and what you can do to reverse that with a couple simple techniques. Try This is produced and hosted by me, Cristina Quinn, and Taylor White. The show's editors are Thomas Liu and Kanyakrit von Kitkajorn. Additional editing by Renita Jablonski. Charla Freeland is our video producer. Darren Taylor is our social video animator. Sound design and mixing is by Ted Muldoon. Theme music is by Catherine Anderson. Show art is by Kati Huertas, with design editing from Christian Font and Greg Manifold. The things I learned in working on the show really do change how I think and do things day to day. So I also want to hear from you. Tell me what you took away from our course and what you do to keep your brain fit as a fiddle. Record a voice memo or send me a note at trythis@washpost.com. Please be sure you give me your whole name and how you spell it. The email address again is trythis@washpost.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll meet you in our third and final class.